Hello and welcome to English for You. I'm Seb.
And I'm Ben.
And we're talking about one of my favorite things today, cafes. So Ben, do you drink a lot of coffee?
You know, I need to have coffee every day pretty much. It just keeps me up, and I think it's almost addictive in terms of I need it to keep my energy up and going throughout the day.
Definitely.
So what about you, Seb?
Well, you know, a lot of people say don't talk to me until I've had my morning coffee, and that's definitely how I would describe myself. I get a bit grouchy, a bit grumpy in the morning, and
too early in the morning.
Right.
And you kind of need something to wake you up, or else it looks like you're in a bad mood for the day.
Exactly. So, you know, a cafe is obviously where you go to drink coffee, but it's more than just a place. It can be more than just a place where you go to drink coffee or read a book, right? So lots of you might remember that we looked at a cafe in our December magazine, the one about Zheng Junlang, who built a cafe for young people in Taidong who didn't have any money or any support. So we can have cafes that look after people as well, who give back to the community.
Exactly. That's so important too, because cafes such as Starbucks, we'll get there in a little bit, but Starbucks and other cafes, they have giving programs to really help those that are in need. For the disabled, could be blind or deaf, and we'll touch base on that a little bit. For example, like Starbucks has opened many signing stores that hire a number of deaf employees and thus use sign language to communicate, which I think is really important because, you know, these people are not given the opportunity to get jobs in other workplaces.
Right.
So it's really important that Starbucks is what they're doing. Now this started in Malaysia, and after the success of reaching out to the deaf, Starbucks spread more stores across America.
Right, and you know, cafe work is generally rather simple, isn't it? You know, aside from your specialty cafes. And
sometimes, too many different kind of different coffees
But a simple cafe is a fairly simple job, and so it's very good if you've got a group of people who might struggle to find work elsewhere. You can create a work environment which is really good for them, which can give them some purpose and also help them to earn some money.
Exactly.
So today we're not going to talk about Starbucks, unfortunately. You needed to read December's issue for that. But we're going to be talking about another very special cafe right here in Taipei. So let's get started.
Reading.
Memories are made at Young Coffee. Imagine you were told you had a life-changing disease. What would you do? It's hard to understand how difficult it must be to live with a serious medical condition. But for those who do, it doesn't mean life is over. In Taipei, there is a cafe providing purpose, support, and new skills to people with one very difficult condition, young onset dementia. Since 2018, Young Coffee has helped many people deal with young onset dementia. This is a disease that causes memory loss and other problems with the brain. While similar conditions are common in elderly people, it affects people under 65 years old. This causes immense problems because many of those who are affected have jobs and families to look after. That's where Young Coffee comes in. People with young onset dementia and their families can go there for classes and support. They also get the chance to work. Every Saturday, Young Coffee opens as a cafe that is operated by the people it helps. I forget things easily, but I don't forget this place, says Sean Ren, one of the staff members. I don't feel like I'm useless.
Okay, so our article begins like this. Imagine you were told you had a life-changing disease. What would you do? Okay, so right there we have our first bit of grammar. So before we get into this article, let's check out how we use this structure. Okay, so imagine you had a life-changing disease. Okay, so this is a tricky but very useful bit of grammar that we have to cover here. We're dealing with the past subjunctive, a tense that we use when we want to talk about things that we wish, worry about, or imagine that aren't real. The easiest way you'll have seen this used is in the second conditional, which we construct like this. We have an if clause and the subject, then the past subjunctive, then a second subject, which can be the same person, and then a would or could modal verb and a base verb. So that's a lot of grammary words there. Here's an example to help you see how that's actually being used. If I won $1 million, I would buy an island. So if I won, there's the if clause, and then the second subject is I again. So we're talking about me the whole time. And then the modal verb would. So if I won $1 million, I would buy an island. Here's another one. If I were you, I would tell mum the truth. Now, we don't always need to use an if clause to open the past subjunctive mood. Verbs like imagine, suppose, and picture can all precede a past subjunctive clause. And that's what we're doing here. This is all because they all ask the listener to imagine something in their heads that isn't real. Like in these sentences. Picture you were famous. Picture you were a famous singer. How would your life be different? Or this one. Suppose you had the power to change the world. What would you change? It's worth noting that sometimes these verbs can be followed by the present subjunctive as well, but that will change the meaning. So listen to these two. Suppose I were lying. So that one there is in the past subjunctive, so I mean that I am not lying, but I want you to imagine what if I was lying. Suppose I am lying is also a correct sentence, but this time, because we're using the present subjunctive, I'm asking you to think, what I'm saying is that I might be lying, and I want you to think about that. So I might be lying to you. So lastly, the past subjunctive can be used with the verb wish as well, and that's because we're talking about something that we want that almost certainly won't happen. The verbs hope and desire, though, cannot be used in this way. So here's an example. I wish I were a famous singer. That's the past subjunctive. I hope I'll be famous one day, however, is not subjunctive at all because it might actually happen one day. When we use that future tense, we're talking about something that is possible.
All right, so now above we saw that you could have a life-changing disease. So now let's take a look at the word disease. Now a disease is a serious illness that can hurt anyone that lives, including animals and plants. Now sometimes diseases can take a long time to cure, and some can't even be cured at all. Now, we get a disease when our bodies are attacked by something we are not used to. Yes, no, it ruins our body's natural function, and thus we get a bad disease or something that happens to our bodies. Now, diseases take a long time to get better from, and normally we have to see a doctor for quite some time, in which they will give medicine to help the spreading of the disease or to cure it. Yeah, now how to prevent this? We have to have a healthy diet. We have to get regular exercise and not smoke. So these can help reduce the chances of getting a disease. Now here's an example sentence for you. My sister has some kind of disease this week and can't come to school. Yeah. Now next, the article says, it's hard to understand how difficult it must be to live with a serious mental condition. Now, in this case,
we saw the word medical condition.
Oh, yeah, medical condition. Yeah, medical.
Although
condition.
it is related to what we're talking about. It is.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of different medical conditions out there, so let's look at medical.
Right, medical, right.
Yeah.
So firstly, we heard mental as well. When we talk about something mental, we mean something relating to the brain.
Yes,
and we'll get to how that's relevant in a minute. But medical, our vocab word, is anything that is medical is related to medicine, health, and hospitals. So a medical uniform, for example, is the clothes that a doctor might wear. It could be a white coat or the special green clothes people wear when they are performing surgery. We could also talk about the medical uses of a substance. So that is how a certain thing can be used to cure diseases, or the medical benefits that that thing might bring. So even talking about oranges, for example, if we're eating an orange, a medical benefit of eating an orange is you get lots of vitamin C.
Yeah.
Vitamin C. So there you go. So anything that can improve your health has a medical benefit. Now, medical comes from the noun medicine, so that's the connection there. Yeah. And it's just one of the few adjectives we can form out of a functional noun, so a using noun, to describe how something is used. So one other example we could look at is recreational. So recreational comes from recreation, so anything that is recreational we do for fun. Right, let's move on now towards our example sentence. Drinking plenty of water has lots of medical benefits, including maintaining blood pressure. Okay, so our next line in the article is, but for those who do, so remember we're talking about those who have serious medical conditions, but for those who do, it doesn't mean life is over.
Yeah, so according to the article in Taipei, there is a cafe providing purpose, support, and new skills to people with one very difficult condition, young onset dementia.
Right.
Yeah, now it's really important, dementia. Now, dementia is related to not being able to remember things. It normally happens to elderly people. Now, here's how it happens. Well, this is a little scientific, but we all have cells in our body. And cells are very small and help us function. There's millions, billions of cells in our body. Or millions, I'd say. Yeah.
All doing little jobs.
Yeah, they're doing little jobs, yeah. And they exist in the brain and in the body. Now, sometimes these cells get damaged, or we lose some cells, and thus we might get dementia. So, for example, you can get in an accident, your head could smash onto something. We lose cells that way. And thus, we lose some cells, or some natural way that we might lose cells. There's tons of different ways. But anyway, these people who have dementia might forget people's names or what happened last week, and they struggle with thinking. Yeah, so I could forget Seb's name if I had dementia,
Right.
just forget what I had for lunch or breakfast this morning. And all in all, their memory gets worse and are forgetful of day-to-day things such as where things are or scheduled activities like a planned date with somebody, or you're meeting somebody, you're scheduled, everything, you've just forgotten.
Right, so this can really get in the way of normal life. So since 2018, Young Coffee has helped many people deal with young onset dementia. Okay, so we saw a pocket phrase there, deal with. Now, when we deal with a problem, we find a solution for it, or we find a way of enduring it or getting through it. So if I say that I found a way of dealing with the broken sink in my bathroom, that means I found a way of fixing it. If you ever watched gangster movies, then you'll know that deal with has a scarier meaning too. Sometimes it can be used to mean kill someone or make someone disappear. So for example, Mr. Johnson has become a problem. Please deal with him for me.
All right, so back to the article. This is a disease that causes memory loss and other problems with the brain. Now, let's look at memory. This is a noun. Now, memory means how we remember things. So some people have very good memory, like they remember numbers and they can remember things far back in time. They remembered shirts of what they wore. They remembered the people's names that they met 10 years ago. Yeah, so they could be a little challenged. And some people have a bad memory in terms of just forgetting things a lot. Yeah, now there are certain ways to improve your memory, such as solving puzzles and doing every activities like Sudoku.
I've heard that's very good for dementia.
Yeah, it actually does help a lot. Just doing things day by day to help your memory. And here's some other things to help as well. Just getting enough sleep, really simple things. Eating less sugar too. And getting exercise can help your physical body and help your memory.
I didn't know that sugar affects your memory.
I didn't know too, but apparently it does. Yeah, could tweak it a little bit maybe online, but that's what said it online, yeah. Here's an example sentence, by the way. He had a good memory as he could remember what shirts he wore as a little kid.
Yeah, you would have a very good memory if you could remember that.
Yeah.
Okay, so our next line of the article is, while similar conditions are common in elderly people, it affects people under 65 years old. So it there is young onset dementia. So if you get dementia after 65, then that could be a different type. Normally just call it dementia in general. But young onset is a rarer kind that tends to affect younger people. So younger people, though, are not elderly, which is another one of our vocab words. Now, elderly is an adjective, and when someone is elderly, they are old. We could also say that they are aging, 变老. Now, we often say that people are elderly rather than old, though, as elderly sounds more polite. So elderly comes from the noun elder, which is an older person, 长辈. We could also say senior as well. Senior, especially in the US, I think is a little bit more common.
More positions, he's a senior,
He could be a senior in a company, as in he's got lots of experience, or he could be a senior, just a little bit older than you.
Senior citizen,
Exactly.
Words.
Right, so our example sentence for elderly is, Robert's elderly aunt needs someone to live with her as she cannot take care of herself anymore.
All right, so we also saw another vocab word, affect. Affect is a verb. Now, effect means to cause a change in something. Now, there's a common misunderstanding of the difference between effect and affect. So let's look at that really quick. Effect with an E is most often used as a noun and is used as a result of something. So here's an example sentence for that. Exercising before work has a positive effect on my mood, so I do it every day. Now, effect with an A is used almost always as a verb and is used as causing change in something. So here's an example sentence. Sophie hoped that the weather wouldn't affect her plans to go to the beach. Alright, so according to the article, this causes many immense problems because many of those who are affected have jobs and families to look after.
Right. When you're 65, you could still have children in high school. It's still quite a young age.
Exactly.
So that's why they face immense problems. Now, that's an adjective, and something that is immense is really, really big. So an immense problem is one that affects you in lots and lots of ways and makes things very difficult for you. We're using this word to emphasize how difficult living with dementia is.
Yes. Now, we just saw a word that says look after, the phrase look after. Now, look after means to care for something or someone. So we oftentimes say, oh, I have to look after my grandparents. They're older, they need help. Or we need to look after like a baby, someone that cannot do something on their own. So it means just to look after and just care for someone who needs help for someone. Now, this can also be washing a baby or just helping an elderly person move around during the day.
Yes, help someone out by crossing the street, for example.
Crossing the street, and washing the baby, So according to the article too, that's where young coffee comes in. Young coffee.
Wait, comes in?
Yeah.
An organization can't come and go. So why are we using that's where X comes in? In this sentence, we're about to find out because we are looking, this is going to be today's Pocket Phrase Go. So let's check it out.
Pocket Phrase Go! 皆さん大家好，我就是志玲姐姐的老公 Akira des， 大家多多指教。哎呀，当一个名人要结婚不太容易，要在台湾办一场 party 把大家照顾好哦。We will have a fabulous party, and that's where Steve comes in. 幸好啊，我的好朋友呢 Steve 他很会办 party 哦，交给他，哎呀，我就放心啦。Where somebody or something comes in 就表示呢，在这个机会、这个状况下有这个东西或是这个人，来得正好，就表示可以派上用场啦。很简单，赶快学起来喽。
Okay, so next in the article we read, people with young onset dementia and their families can go there for classes and support. Right, I went on their website actually, and they have all sorts of like hobby classes, arts and crafts, but also special talks which they give for the family of people with dementia. How can you take good care of them? How can you look after them?
That's really important to have a support group so they can discuss ways to get better with dementia. So you're not just by yourself and trying to solve everything out, actually spreading your ideas to other people.
Right, but this center actually has something quite special about it, doesn't it? They have something else that they do.
They do. Actually, according to the article, they also get the chance to work.
Right, yes. That's the people with dementia and their families, because every Saturday, Young Coffee opens as a cafe that is operated by the people it helps. Okay, so actually how it works is it's a bigger center, and then some of the rooms are a cafe, and on the Saturdays you can go in there, you can have some coffee, and everybody who's working around you is either affected by dementia, they are affected by dementia, or they have dementia itself.
Yeah, it's really interesting how they can all work together. It's something that we could see more of in our communities, but let's look at our article. So, I forget things easily, but I don't forget this place, says Shan Ren, one of the staff members. I don't feel like I'm useless, which is such a big help to feel that they're actually contributing to something, which is, I'd love to see that,
Right, it's giving them purpose as members of staff. Now, staff is a noun, and staff is a non-count noun we use to mean all the workers at a particular place or business. So when I say non-count there, I mean we can't say one staff, two staffs, three staffs. We'll get on to what we say instead in a minute, but that's what I mean by non-count. So the staff at a hotel, for example, or we could say hotel staff as well, are the people at the check-in, the cleaners, and the cooks in the restaurant, and the man behind the bar. They are all part of the hotel staff. If we want to talk about one person, though, who is part of the staff, we will call them a staff member or a member of staff. So a member is just one person within a group. So we would say, instead of saying one staff, two staff, we could say one member of staff, two members of staff.
Yeah, exactly.
We need two members of staff to help out in the restaurant now. Anyway, when you start working, you might also go to a staff meeting as well. And that is a meeting for everyone at your place of work. So a staff meeting. And that is actually what's happening in our example sentence. The boss gathered all the members of staff in the meeting room and made an announcement. All right, well, that's all the time we've got for now. You can check out Young Coffee. We'll tell you a little bit more about them in a second. But first, let's go to our For You Chat question.
For You Chat.
All right, so here's our For You chat question for today. So, Seb, how do you think working in a cafe helps people with dementia? And what other activities do you think would help someone with this condition?
Right, well, I think that I'm not a doctor, first off, but I think that one thing that helps with things like dementia is routine. You know, when you have a routine, it helps solidify, helps kind of...
Good habit.
You remember certain things in your day. You know, if I know that I'm going to be in this room at this time, it's harder for me to forget things, you know, what's there, what I should be doing in certain situations. And I don't think necessarily this gets rid of dementia, but it probably definitely helps slow it down.
Yeah.
Or maybe even stop it where it is. So the routine of it, I think, is very good. But also, I think that there's a little bit of creativity in making coffee and cooking as well. They also get to cook. So, you know, doing these kind of creative things, it gets your brain working a little bit. Like, what can I do here? What can I do different? How can I make this better?
Exactly.
And so I think all of those are kind of, they're both fun and useful for helping with dementia.
Yeah.
So that's really all the time we have to discuss how the cafe can help. But don't forget, we're talking about Young Coffee. They are in Da'an in Taipei. Taishunjie, I think, if we're going to be specific. So that's right next to Shidai Night Market and NTNU. So if you're in Da'an, then you should definitely check that out. Definitely go to Young Coffee. In fact, we should go sometime.
We should do that. Yeah, take a coffee break there and understand the culture, what it's like there, just understand the people.
Yeah.
See
it would
what
be
it's like for them.
really good.
You could ask them questions. See what it's like.
So check it out. And we may see you there.
Yeah.
Yes. So for English for You, I'm Seb.
And I'm Ben.
And we'll see you again next time.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Memories are made at Young Coffee. Imagine you were told you had a life-changing disease. What would you do? It's hard to understand how difficult it must be to live with a serious medical condition. But for those who do, it doesn't mean life is over. In Taipei, there is a cafe providing purpose, support, and new skills to people with one very difficult condition, young onset dementia. Since 2018, Young Coffee has helped many people deal with young onset dementia. This is a disease that causes memory loss and other problems with the brain. While similar conditions are common in elderly people, it affects people under 65 years old. This causes immense problems because many of those who are affected have jobs and families to look after. That's where Young Coffee comes in. People with young onset dementia and their families can go there for classes and support. They also get the chance to work. Every Saturday, Young Coffee opens as a cafe that is operated by the people it helps. I forget things easily, but I don't forget this place, says Sean Ren, one of the staff members. I don't feel like I'm useless.
Vocabulary Review. Disease. In the 1920s, a medicine was discovered that could cure many diseases. Medical. Coca-Cola was first sold in drugstores as people believed it had medical uses. Memory. Ginny doesn't have a good memory. She's always forgetting things. Elderly. Japan has a very large elderly population and far fewer young people. Affect. The bad weather affected Miranda's mood. She hated when it rained. Staff. This hotel has a huge staff of over 500 workers.
智慧小补帖
Dementia. Immense.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net